And then we can get started knowing that if other people hop on and join us, we'll let them on in. So hello, everyone. I've probably been emailing with you, but my name is Sarah Procario. I'm the Advocacy Director at the Hemophilia Foundation of Michigan. I am joined here with some of my colleagues who have been working very closely with me. I'll let them introduce themselves. So we have Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Stifler. I'm with the National Psoriasis Foundation.
Stephen
Schultz with Arts Eyes Foundation.
And then Kevin McKinney.
Hi, Kevin McKinney, McKinney and Associates. Can you see me? Am I on Zoom?
I cannot. Let me ask you to start video and see if that helps.
Okay, hold on a second. There you go.
Great.
Hello.
We can see you.
Yep, thanks.
Hello. So I'll go ahead. I'm just going to share a little bit of an update with you all on the process to get HB 5944 to where it was, and then I'll turn it over for some other updates. So as you all know, we had been working pretty closely with the bill's sponsor on 5944, the original copay accumulator bill, with sponsor Ben Frederick, and it was really great work for us. The sponsor was very receptive. We had a lot of back and forth with him and other policy staff to share concerns. As the bill was originally drafted, it was a very broad bill to allow really all copays to count. As you all probably know, the bill then that was actually introduced was the one that had us concerned about manufacturer assistance being allowed to count towards copays and deductibles, et cetera. So we're very happy. We were able to introduce some generic language, which we know is a bit of a compromise for us all. We would all like a very broad bill that allows all copays to count. However, we did have some arguments from the insurers, other big stakeholders who were arguing that they didn't want costs to increase by copay assistance pushing people onto brand name drugs. We know that's not really the case, but that is what led us to actually introduce the generic language, which says, copay assistance can count towards your deductible and out-of-pocket costs unless there is a generic alternative that you haven't already bypassed through what the insurance protocols already. So again, we know this isn't exactly the broadest language that we all wanted, but we thought that it actually was a pretty good compromise and allowed us to hopefully move the bill forward. We did still have concerns about the tie bar, which was shared in the joint statement. So we did our best at educating members of the Health Policy Committee. The substitute bill with the generic language was eventually passed out of the Health Policy Committee, but we did have a few members of the Democratic representatives on the committee pass on the vote. They had introduced an amendment to remove the tie bar. So they did show some support for us there. And that was Representative Clemente, who introduced the amendment to remove the tie bar. And then Ellison, Stone, and Clemente all passed on the vote rather than supporting or opposing it. So 5944 was our main focus, but once we were taking a look again then at the tie bar, that's when we started to get much more into 5943, which sort of had just flown a bit under the radar for us all until that point as we were transitioning from health policy into ways and means. So I always like to turn this part over to Kristen, let her talk about this False Claims Act and the bill that amends that. So I'll turn it over to her.
Thanks, Sarah. What's interesting about 5943 is that because they're tie barred together with 5944, they potentially could act counter to one another. And I think that that's kind of one of the main concerns that we've had, and probably why it kind of did fly under the radar is because we weren't quite sure what the bill was trying to get at. And as it was starting to get flagged for us, we started to have lots of meetings just to make sure that we understood we weren't misunderstanding something in regards to the language. So as you can see in 5943, there is no substitute. It's the bill as introduced currently. And it does try to get at the generic equivalent language that we agreed to in 5944. So we, and when speaking with the bill sponsor, so that was Representative Carter, it was from his understanding, as well as from the Speaker's office, that as this is part of a healthcare reform package, this was the bill that was supposed to get at generic equivalent drugs or biosimilar drugs, trying to get it at lower cost for the system as a whole. And with us agreeing to that language in 5944, before manufacturer assistance would kick in, we feel that this language here is actually duplicative of the language that we've already agreed to in 5944. So is the bill really necessary at this point in time, based on what the impetus for the introduction of this bill? But that's not the only issue that this bill has come to our attention. And so that's kind of the first part of the bill, has to do with the generic equivalent. It's the second portion of the bill that really started to have some patient and provider advocates a little concerned. And so it's you can find that language in the original bill on page 4. It says at the top of page 4, and it states that if there is a drug rebate, discount, or other type of voucher or reduction that is being provided through manufacturer assistance, that it has to be provided to all eligible individuals, regardless of how the drug is paid for. And that language there, when asking what that's supposed to mean or how it's supposed to work, we found that there was just a lot of there was no clarity in regards to why the bill sponsor or why the healthcare reform package included this language. And because this language is so concerning, that I think for us, our main concern, we have not provided any additional language. You can see from our from the letter that we provided to the Needs Committee, we're opposed to this bill because we're not certain what they're trying to do here. And I think our concern has always been is that we're trying to protect patients' access to manufacturer assistance or any type of copay assistance, as we have through 5944. And so that's where I think we're currently sitting, is knowing that the current language of the bill could actually, we're not exactly sure what to do, but we know that there has the potential to hurt patients and their access. And I think that that's been the concerns that we have been raising. We know that there has been language that has been floated to try to resolve some of these issues, but at this point in time, from where we're sitting in trying to support 5944, we just can't be in support of 5943.
Thanks, Kristen. I did mention that we were having a little bit of audio issues, but it seemed to work itself out. So great. Kevin seems to have just popped away for a second. Oh no, he's right there. So thank you for sharing that update, Kristen, which is why, as you all know, we did share that joint statement for sign-on where we were opposing 5943. And, you know, we have continued to have conversations about that bill, but that's really where we've stayed for now. I wanted to just turn it over to Kevin, who's been just so helpful to our group, helping us figure out, you know, where to move, who to talk to, and maneuvering through the legislature. So if Kevin, you can just share with the group sort of what you've shared with us about the end of the year and what that looks like moving through the process.
Sure, and I apologize for jumping off. I have a 14-year-old dog that has arthritic hips and has a bladder infection. So I'm constantly rushing him out the door. So that's why I'm jumping back and forth. So there are 13 days left of this legislative session. And they're coming back next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they have 2 session days sandwiched between the Veterans Day, and then they break to after the Thanksgiving holiday. So for all intents and purposes, there's going to be 9 days in late November, December for this to work its way through the legislature. And what we're hearing is that in our conversation with Representative Iden, who chairs the House Ways and Means Committee, he's anticipating a hearing and likely to move this package probably the second week of November. So that'd be like November 10th and 12th is when these bills could likely move out of the House Ways and Means Committee and onto the House floor for action upon their return, which relieves the 9 session days. We're trying to figure out strategies, not seeing any language yet with the substitutes that we're anticipating. The package continues to be some obviously controversial, very complicated, but in anticipation that it is moving, in anticipation that the speaker is now engaged and wants this at least through the House chamber so that the Senate at least has an opportunity to take it up. We need to be ready. And I think that as Kristen and Sarah have indicated that, we were unsuccessful with removing the tie bar in the Health Policy Committee. I don't think we're going to be successful in removing the tie bar, and 5943 becomes problematic for us regardless. So we're working a number of different angles with Representative Tyrone Carter, who's a Democrat. So we're working with him, explaining the problem for patients. We're working with the Democratic caucus staff, reaching out to Representative Frederick, who was the sponsor of 5944, saying all the good work that you have done on behalf of patients will go for naught if this tie bar remains, and or probably more importantly, if we do not get some changes in 5943. So those are all in motion right now, and it's kind of hard to predict how this is going to land out of House Ways and Means Committee. We're also starting to move over in the Senate, but I don't want to get ahead of this group at this time because I really think we need to focus over the next 2 weeks on the House Ways and Means Committee members, as well as just the House in general. So that's kind of a quick overview.
Kevin, could you talk a little bit more about the tie bar, especially for those of us on the national side, just what that looks like in Michigan and why that's not seen as an opportunity, why it was a hopeful opportunity towards the beginning of our negotiations, but why it's seeming less and less likely that we can untie the bills?
Yeah, so, and I've been on both sides of this issue, wanting to keep a package tie barred versus working with folks that want to remove the tie bar. The tie bar really is an attempt by Hank Volpel to keep everybody engaged so that we can't, quite honestly, cherry pick and only move the best bills in the package, which quite honestly is our bill, 5944. And that's the one that seems to be the one that has the best, that does the most for the patients, that has, that can be messaged the easiest and best, even though we'll be beyond the campaign by that time. And so I think it's Chairman Volpel's decision, political calculation, that as long as he can, he's going to keep everybody roped in together and try to move this thing through the Senate. I think that even our own bill sponsor, Representative Frederick, realizes if he had his way, even though he's the majority vice chair, he would welcome the removal of the tie bar, because I think he does not believe that this is going to make it all the way through the Senate. But let me just caution everybody, even though I said there's only going to be like 9 days left, I have been through 20 lame duck sessions in my career. And last lame duck session, over 300 bills were passed in the legislature in about the last 3.5 days. So calendar days don't really mean anything when they're ramming and jamming this stuff and cutting deals. So I think we have to be ever vigilant and really respond aggressively when asked to. And if your organization is willing to, because I'm afraid that this might get in some sort of negotiations with the Senate on other issues. So, does that answer your question, Kristen?
It does. It does.
Okay. All right.
And that, I think, leads up into where we want to finish this call, which is sharing an action request. So we're going to be putting together a toolkit that'll make it easy for all coalition partners to access with, a sample letter or talking points to share. And also a request for you, if you feel okay now, starting to message around the importance of copay assistance for your patients. We'll bring support to you, of course, if you don't feel ready to message yet, but we really want to make sure that we're pushing this, at least right now, in the House. So for local partners, you can reach out to the Ways and Means Committee and Chairman Iden, and for our local partners, your representative, wherever you're located in the House, to continue making sure that we have enough influx of patient voices to make sure that they're really listening to us. I think I had this call from 2 to 3, knowing it would not go from 2 to 3. So I just want to let you all know that if there are questions, we're happy to answer those, but we'll also be sharing an update, hopefully early next week, on the ways that each of your organizations can support this effort at the end of the year.
And I think that we're looking at messaging with a large push, hopefully right after the election. So looking at that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week as being an opportunity for our coalition and our patients to really shine and explain. And I know that our messaging is a little nuanced because we've worked so hard on 5944 to get that to where we've been through many iterations, working to try and get it in good shape, especially to what we've seen in other states that have passed the copay accumulator ban. So it's hard because we are very much in support of 5944, but knowing that it's tie-barred to 5943, which has the potential to call into question whether or not those protections are available for patients for manufacturer assistance. I think that that's what the four of us are working on right now, is making sure that we have that messaging down to where we can make sure that that's top of mind in how we can get that message across clearly. So just know that we're working on that too, and always willing to take any other inspiration that anyone else has in regards to this messaging. But we know that it's very nuanced. It's a very hard policy issue. So, but just thank you in advance if you're able to help support as we move forward.
Yes, thank you so much.
Did Stephen, did you have any thoughts as no?
We just talking over Stephen, but he has been the best, most valuable resource for all of this. So, well, I don't see any questions coming in, but we know, of course, you can email any questions to us, and I will share this recording and maybe just some quick notes with the whole coalition, everyone who's signed on to our joint statement after this, and know that you'll be hearing from us next week so we can have some movement on this. Is that good with everyone? Okay. Thank you all for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.